Hi everyone, my name is Valerie Inahosa and I will be doing my presentation on the 18-month visit. So for the physical development that we see with an 18-month-old, we notice that their growth slows. They should be measuring 12 centimeters more in length a year, and their occipital frontal circumference should grow 3 centimeters. They should have a weight increase of at least 1 kilo per year. If they don't meet this, then we would have to monitor closely and consider a referral if they're not gaining appropriate weight. They will also have their anterior fontanelles closing, and their head would be proportioned to their body. They should have 14 teeth at this point, and their posture would be of a lordotic posture, which would be a pot belly and bow-legged. Um, the here. The gross and fine motor skills that we would notice. Gross motor, we would see them walking down the stairs. They'll be able to climb on furniture or just climb in general. They'll be able to run, kick large balls. Fine motor skills, they'll be able to stack at least 3 blocks, remove their socks. This is the point where they start to learn how to dress and undress themselves. They'll start to use spoons or utensils, but most of the time they'll still be finger feeding themselves, and they'll be able to throw small balls or scribble. For their cognitive skills, this is the point where they start imagination or pretend play. They like to listen to stories. They're able to name familiar objects. They're able to follow simple directions or commands. They will mimic you. My daughter did that at this phase. And they will play with toys, such as like pushing a toy car. And then they'll point to body parts that they're familiar with. Their language skills develops greatly. So they go through a learning explosion. They learn 9 new words a day. They can recognize nouns at this point, and repetition teaches them how words are used in communication. They understand simple commands such as bye-bye or hello. And like I mentioned earlier, they're familiar with the names of familiar people and objects. They can name that. And then they understand simple questions. This is a slide that I got from our Bright Futures book, and it just goes over some of the information that I had just mentioned. As far as the screening tools, so there's 3 different kind that we can use at this point. The screening tools are used for psychosocial screens to help identify for any cognitive, emotional, behavioral concerns. There's the Ages and Stages questionnaire, the ASQ or ASQ3, the Parent Evaluation of Developmental Status or the PEDS test, and then the Modified Checklist for Autism in Toddlers revised with follow-up or MCHAT-RF. The PEDS test is actually an evidence-based tool that's used to detect and address developmental and behavioral problems in children from birth up to 7 years. And then the MCHAT-RF is a screening tool that's recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics to screen for autism. These are some of the examples. This is just one page of many of the other pages that the ASQ requires. This is an example of the MCHAT. Again, this is one of the many other pages that it has. The developmental theory that I wanted to address is Piaget's developmental theory. So Piaget's theory suggests that humans progress through 4 developmental stages: the sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. In terms of the 18-month-old child, they are going through the sensory motor stage. And what Piaget believed is that children go through these certain stages of learning, moving from concrete information to gradually becoming more abstract, regardless of any instruction that they receive. He also believed that cognitive development is a continuous process, and all children, even in different environmental contexts or different cultures around the world, they all go through the same sequence of cognitive development. So the sensory motor stage, which is from birth up until 2 years old, is it entitles 3 phases. So phase 1 we would see when they are about 18 months. This phase, children can express themselves with limited vocabulary. Phase two is when they start doing deferred imitation, which is basically their capacity to imitate others. And then phase three is where their imagination and representation of symbols begin. So this is when we start seeing them play with imagination play. Any anticipatory guidance that we would tell parents at this point would be their interaction with their child. They should be reading books to them. They should limit their screen time to less than an hour. They should be their behavior or disciplining them. They should be offering different choices, keeping the rules very simple, remove any objects that might trigger tantrums, and then they should reinforce positive behavior. If there's moments where they do develop a tantrum, that's the time when you would use timeout. Healthy eating habits would be never leaving them alone while eating, no popcorn or hot dogs, no chunky meats, nuts, and then start introducing cups and utensils rather than finger foods. In terms of temper tantrums, they should be able to help them stick to routines or a schedule, help them distract themselves or redirect them when the tantrum is happening. Things that would be a red flag at this point is if a tantrum is lasting greater than 15 minutes, or if they're showing signs of self-injurious behavior, or if they're past the 4-year-old mark and they're still having tantrums. Those would be red flags to indicate that the child may need more support. Oral hygiene, this is the point where we start talking about brushing our teeth with a smear of fluoride toothpaste. No bottles or sippy cups should be used in bed. And then they should be updated with their immunizations. At this point, they should have a DTaP number 4 and HIB or HIB number 3, or the influenza vaccine. The red flags that we would see with this age group would be if we saw any poor sleep schedule. If they, like I mentioned, have tantrums or they can't control themselves, if they're not able to follow simple commands, if they're not able to scribble, unable to use a spoon or self-feed, unable to walk, or if they don't imitate or play with toys as intended. If we notice any of these delays, then it would be advised to seek referral services at this point. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.